Hey everybody, Gabe Suarez from Suarez Tactics. I'm here in town waiting to go in for a meeting. I was just at one of the local gun stores. You know, every time I'm in town, I stop in, say hello, see if they have anything cool, and all that kind of stuff. And I ran into a local range owner, and good guy, and he said, yeah, we finally had. A self-inflicted gunshot wound on the range, and he proceeded to tell me about it and stuff. I'm not going to get into details, but it was during the holstering process. Okay, as one might expect. Okay, now there's some dynamics at play here that I want to discuss. Okay, so number one is that a few years ago, I had a student of mine that was writing a college paper, and he wanted to do it on something related to firearms, and so he did it on the nature of self-inflicted gunshot wounds on the range, he was the sort of guy that he was very personable and could talk to people and everything else, so he gathered quite a bit of information. Maybe back channel stuff, but nonetheless, he had a rather large sampling of data, and it was incredible, the information, because it kind of went along with what my suspicions were. And so the majority of self-inflicted gunshot wounds on the range involved holstering. In other words, going back to the holster. Now I'll talk about that in a moment. Number two, they usually involve speed drills. Okay, trying to beat the clock and everything else. And what happens with that is the speed becomes the focus of the exercise, and often what happens is that the shooter or the student doesn't differentiate the eccentric execution of the drill with the concentric execution of the drill. So in other words, they're going back to the holster, they're getting ready to do it again. They don't equate the change in speed for going back to the holster. So that's the second thing. And then invariably it happened either the second half of the day or the latter part of a multiple day class. So what you're talking about is students that are tired, that they've been pushing all day, usually in the hot sun and everything else. They're working speed drills, and they're working with holstering pistols. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is this particular gentleman that I was hearing about today, very, very experienced competition shooter, and the thing that I note about that is in very, very few, if any, competitions do they actually holster a loaded pistol after the stage is done. Sure, they start off with a holstered pistol, but when they holster that pistol in the beginning, they do it very carefully. You can watch them. They load it, they holster it very carefully and everything else, and they get ready to go. And then once everything's done, after they've shot, they unload and they go back into the holster, and they go back into the holster rather quickly. So there's this implied perception of safety. It's safe to holster this unloaded pistol, and so they do it in a very careless manner and everything else. And I think that's largely what happened here. Okay, now my process of holstering, which I teach in every class, I don't care if I have 20 NSW guys or 20 soccer moms. I do this to make sure, because even the best of us can have lapses, and even the best of us can have a maybe less than optimal execution sort of seep into the programming now and again. And so we teach a drawing process, which, it's not a big deal. You're drawing the pistol out of the holster. Very rarely does anybody have any issue. I'm only aware of one guy that had a self-inflicted gunshot injury on the draw, and this was in the old days of that particular school in Arizona, and it was because they were teaching the draw improperly, where the front hand kind of sticks out almost like a spear hand and intercepts the pistol rather than intercepting it closer. This particular guy was a law enforcement guy in California. I knew him very well back in the day, he told me exactly what happened, and he put a round right through his hand because that's where the gun was pointing. But that's the only one. All the other ones that I'm aware of involve the reholster process. So what I teach is very simple, okay? After you're done shooting, you pause and you take a breath and you have your after action process. Now, the bullet golfers go, oh, that's me. You don't need to do that. Yeah, you do. You do need to do that. And here's what the after action process involved. Number one, you check your work, okay? Make sure that the target that you shot is shot. I know it's a piece of cardboard or a steel target. Just stand there and look at it for a while and admire your work, okay? If it's an adversary on the street, you're going to want to make sure that you were successful in your attempt. And if there is the need for subsequent shooting, then, you have the ability to do that now. You're not going to be able to do that if you holster right away, okay? Then you do a quick assessment. What's around me? Do I need to shoot anybody else or anybody else trying to shoot me? And it's very simple. It's just a matter of just kind of looking around your area for just a moment. Take a breath, and then go back to the holster. Now, when I teach this on the range, I also include a proactive reload, because you may as well do one. And I include a self first aid check because, you can get shot and not realize it. I've seen that happen on the street as well. Okay? Do you need to do it every single time physically? No, but you need to think about it. All right? So the after action is check your work. Did I hit him? Did it work? Do I have anybody else to shoot? What's the status of my weapon? And have I been shot? Simple as that. And it's done. It's a thought process that can be physically executed. Or it can be physically executed regardless, either way, okay? Now, when it comes time to go back to holster, you're at the ready position, which I don't do low ready. I do the midpoint ready, which is the position in the draw where the hands actually come together in the center line of the body. And I've done videos on this. My God, just look at them for heaven's sakes, okay? Then I have the student engage the safety. First of all, finger off the trigger, that's where it should be anyway. Finger at default position. For me, it's usually the forward edge of the ejection port on the slide. Okay, if it's a safety weapon, engage the safety. If it's a double action pistol, decock the hammer. Okay, then look at the holster. Visually look at the holster. Your eyes should be looking inside the holster. All right, then insert the pistol in the holster slowly and carefully. Secure it, and then drape your clothing back over the holster. It's analogous to the way a Japanese samurai would resheath his sword after he makes a cut. If you can watch those guys, we can learn quite a bit from them. There's a lot of parallels between swordsmanship and gunfighting. They would draw very quickly, make the necessary cuts, and when they're done, there was a very careful and thoughtful and smooth process of resheathing the sword. We need to do the same thing with pistols. This mentality of speed reholstering, it's a thought process that needs to end. It is something that has been brought into the gun industry from the sport world, because there is no reholstering of loaded guns usually in the sport world, and sport usually starts to be imitated by life, and that's not what we want to do. Okay, sport is a game, gunfighting is life and death. When you holster your pistol after a gunfight, you need to understand the dynamics at play, and you need to do it in a careful way so that you don't have a self-inflicted gunshot. You do the process I discussed. You look at the holster, you secure the pistol, and then you cover up the pistol with your shirt. People say, well, why are you looking at your holster? The gunfight's not in there. No, but if the bad guy is not rendered, how shall we say, hors de combat, in other words, out of the fight, I'm not going to be holstering. I'm going to keep my weapon pointed at him and wait for my associates to come up and help, or I'm going to be putting more rounds into his face. I'm not going to be standing around, trying to find my holster and stuff like that. So look, secure, and move on. That's how you're going to ensure that you don't have a mishap, even when you are at your best. Now, the other thing that we discussed today when I was talking to the gentleman is that, when we are at our best, we can get away with all kinds of stuff, man. It's amazing. When we're at our best, you had days like that at the range, I imagine, when you've been at your best, and man, you can't miss, that you do amazing things and everything else, but we're not always there, are we? There are days when we're tired. There's days when we're distracted. There's days when we're sick. We got a cold or the flu or something. There's days when we are not at our best, we're at our worst. And so your methods, your techniques have to be developed so that when you are at your worst, those techniques will still function at their best. Okay? Anyway, that's it. My meeting is here. Gotta go. Gotta make some money. All right? Peace out.